Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Cave Network podcast. Today, we have something very interesting for you. You guys have all seen our beloved brother, Jules, aka Sartorial Shooter, who has become the calming voice, the reassuring voice of the nation. Allahumma barik. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Sheikh, wallah, you've actually done a great service, man, to the people living in this country, also in the region, because look, coming from the West, there's a lot of distrust with governments, because generally speaking, I mean, coming from the UK, we grew up and our MPs were basically taking our tax money to pay for their swimming pool maintenance.
I wouldn't trust UK MPs myself, bro.
So generally speaking, when people come, usually, even though one of the things I love here is that the government's been so transparent along with it, but people tend to always look for like the other voice. And I feel like you've been that for us.
Yeah, interesting, brother. If I was not Muslim, I'd say it was just lucky. But obviously we believe in something more powerful, in Qadr. What a coincidence, Qadr, that for years, 15, 18 years in total, my focus was doing these sorts of analysis for escalations in the Middle East and doing these sorts of briefings, for corporate clients, for ultra high net worth clients. Now I just so happen to have social media. I'm just doing the job I did for near on 2 decades. I'm not trying to do anything fancy or anything. I'm not trying to get a bunch of views. I'm just doing that which I've done for most of my adult life. Yet now there's a social media platform and it's reaching many people. So it's quite interesting to witness in that I didn't plan for this. I thought I was retired and a tailor, but now I'm talking security again. So it's all an interesting exercise in Qadr, really.
It's about authority, isn't it? Fundamentally, when you want to hear from someone who you trust, number one, someone who, Allah barik, you're already a successful person. You've made your money. There cannot be that type of incentive here. So I trust you. You're a brother. I've seen you, online, trying to do khair. Just push good positive messaging, guide people to Islam. So you're a person I trust, but also you're competent in that, Allah barik, you did this for 2 decades, right? So when those two things come together, I think it becomes very reassuring.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a nice piece to recognize. And a lot of people want to say I'm paid by Dubai. I reached financial independence years ago, alhamdulillah. As I've gotten closer to the deen, I've been less interested in the dunya. I had 13 vehicles at one point. I have one left, one serious one. I had millions of dollars in watches. I got one Rolex left now, man. Really, I don't feel pulled to the material, but I am getting paid in barakah, and I really believe in that. If we want to use a sort of non-Muslim terminology, perhaps for those who are unfamiliar with the concept of barakah, I believe in the good deeds or the blessings economy. A lot of people in the West that talk about bad karma. As a Muslim, you understand barakah. Perhaps a Western layperson way to put it would be good karma. I get paid from the amount of people who see my content and are better informed, perhaps encouraged to look closer at the deen if they're from outside it, or perhaps encouraged to get closer to the deen if they are part of the ummah. That, to me, is so much more worthwhile than money. More money doesn't change my life at the moment. Even you give me another 10M in the bank, I'm still living the same way. I don't want more cars. I'm sick of the fancy holidays. What am I going to do with the money? More sadaqah? More zakat? Whereas that good karma economy, the barakah economy, that is a payment that I value. That is a payment that I seek. And it's really fulfilling.
And we very much appreciate that. I think I'm speaking on behalf of everyone who's seen your videos over the last 2 weeks. Barakallah fi. So Sheikh, viewers, just as you guys know, we always like to ground ourselves in reminding ourselves about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His greatness before we get into the commercial and material side of things. This is a podcast that we have for primarily members in our network of high net worth, ultra high net worth entrepreneurs and investors, fundamentally those that are based in the region, but of course globally as well. But of course, since we've got these recent events in the air and these things do have commercial implications, I wanted to come down and sit with our brother Jules here and just really kind of get a bit more of a deep dive into what's going on, so we can make informed decisions with regards to our family, the security element, but of course also the commercial element as well. But let's begin with remembering Allah Azza wa Jal. So one of the things that I just wanted to say, because we are speaking in the context of security and safety here, is that Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, Wallahu khayrun hafidha. Allah Azza wa Jal is the best protector, right? He is the greatest protector. He's the best protector. The reason why I highlight this is because it's very important. When Allah Azza wa Jal blesses us with something, we don't forget Him. Now, I want to go out there and just say from the get-go, right? Whoever doesn't thank, the people have not thanked Allah in the first place, which is why an abundance of gratitude to the leadership, to the government, to the military officials that are involved in keeping this place safe with Allah's permission. The key word here is with Allah's permission. I want to just make sure that we also extend our gratitudes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. See, in Surah Al-Anfal, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned something very powerful. He said, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. See, when the Prophet ﷺ, he threw at the opposition in the Battle of Badr, Allah said, Muhammad, you didn't throw, i.e. it's the same word in Arabic for shot or fire. You didn't shoot, you didn't fire when you fired Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. But Allah is the one who fired. I.e. Allah didn't pull the trigger, but it's through Allah's divine management and control in His qadr and His wisdom that He facilitated those outcomes. So this protection that we're seeing, this safety that we experience, of course, Allah has made the leadership a means for us to achieve that. But let's also remember to thank Allah Azza wa Jal. And I'll leave by mentioning this. You see, victory is something that's not in the control of any human being. And Allah Azza wa Jal mentions this explicitly in the Quran. Victory comes from Allah. Allah says, وَمَن نَصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَكِيمِ. The victory doesn't come from any place or any avenue other than from Allah, the Mighty, the Wise. And then He goes on to say that there are those that make dua in times of conflict. And they ask Allah to give them victory. Allah said that He, أَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ ثَوَابَ الدُّنْيَا. Allah brings them the victory, but Allah refers to victory as a reward. Now, reward comes from good deeds. Right? Rewards, Allah gives rewards. Thawab, this word that we all know, it comes from what? From good deeds. Salah, zakat, fasting, hajj, not doing sins, not backbiting, right? Charity, all of these things that we know that Allah is pleased with, Allah rewards you with victory as a result of that. So we ask everyone to keep doing good deeds, right? The month of Ramadan is over by the time you're watching this. Don't stop doing your good deeds, right? It's because of those good deeds that Allah Azza wa Jal blesses a populace with the kind of governments and leaderships that take care of them. This is actually a reward from Allah. So let's keep increasing that reward so our victory can keep increasing and our safety can keep increasing. With that said, back into the discussion.
I love it, bro. I love it. What beautiful intent. I love it.
So Sheikh, look, you put up a video, I think it was yesterday, you mentioned, or it was perhaps this morning, that you're 150 times more likely to be shot in the USA and then to be hit by a projectile here from Iran in the UAE. So walk us through that. No, I actually did, because we did a podcast about a couple of days ago, so we actually did. So, but just walk us through that, like if you can, the actual math, or how you got to that.
For sure. So let's look at the human condition when it comes to perceiving fear. The discipline to look at is what's known as risk perception. Because I have a master's degree in risk. This is something that I geeked out on back in the day. As soon as you bring in emotion or that which is new and unfamiliar, humans really struggle with perceiving fear accurately.
Okay.
For example, I did a brief for a bunch of American guys who lived in Chicago and who were 10 out of 10 fear, because I asked them, where are you at in your fear?
Over here?
Yeah. They said they were 10 out of 10 fear when this kicked off.
Wow.
I said, I'm at zero. Yeah. Well, yeah, I said, I'm at 0 out of 10 fear. However, when I was 4 or 5 years ago on a subway in Chicago, I was at 5 out of 10 fear. They all laughed at me. Good old laugh. I'm like, good, I got you now. And I said, guys, the way I look at it, assessing risk accurately, I wasn't carrying. I didn't have a security team with me. Any one of these people could have been criminal actors. I'm a bit of a public figure, even back then, if you could see I had a bit of wealth to me. I'm a target that people might want to come at. That is real risk to my person. So my 5 out of 10 was actually justifiable. I said, how many of you guys have been affected by gun violence? One guy said he lost a brother. Another one said they lost friends. I'm like, rest in peace. That's security risk that's directly affected you. In the UAE, you are 3 times more likely, even at the worst of the action here, to die from road traffic accident as per normal, official statistics. No one's going to stop jumping in an Uber because of that risk. But you're at 10 out of 10 fear here in the UAE. Doesn't make sense. This is your emotions. This is not the prefrontal cortex, logical part of your brain. This is the emotions getting in the way of you perceiving risk accurately. So all these big guys are like, oh. I said, you're still comfortable driving in the UAE, right? Yeah. I said, that's 3 times more dangerous than you living normally here and thinking that something's going to hit you from the sky. Yeah. So bringing in that context, condensing the emotions and allowing people to look at the risk clinically and logically is key here. That works with men. Now, with our dear sisters, obviously, the emotions can be a bit more powerful, so you need to do other things. I recommend mindfulness. I recommend positive reframing. I recommend talking to the kids, saying, those loud bangs in the sky, that's actually a good thing. That's the UAE missile interceptors doing their job. Alhamdulillah, it's the country protecting us. When we hear the jets in the sky, that's actually a good thing. Those jets are up there to keep us safe. Same with the helicopters. They're shooting the drones down. This is all part of the infrastructure to keep us safe. That positive reframe is really good for the younger minds as well.
See, this is gold, Sheikh. I'll tell you something, right? So my daughter's 6. she has no idea there are missiles in the sky or there are interceptions. And I'll tell you why. We live in an area where there's a lot of construction happening, right? It just, over the last year, they just, Dubai, they're always building things. And these noises for her are normal. Like there's a loud bang because they dropped some kind of steel. Like this is always happening. So I think it literally is about perception, right? It literally, like my daughter has no concept of threat right now because as far as she's concerned, these noises are normal. I
think that's probably the ideal way to do it. A little bit of selective parental dishonesty. It's just construction, darling. Don't worry.
The opportunity never even rose. I would be transparent with her and say, those are missiles. I don't know, maybe my parenting style is it's a bit dramatic, but I like to just keep it real with my kid, of course, within bounds. But the opportunity didn't even rise because for her, those are just sounds.
And if we look at everyone's individual perception of risk, we all have our own right to choose our risk tolerance. How comfortable are you with certain types of risk? I'm not comfortable sitting on a subway in Chicago. Yeah. I'm not. I don't like it. I never did it after that. Just catch an Uber, even if it costs more. I'm completely comfortable here. Now, everyone has their own decision-making process, but if we look at it clinically, logically, without emotion, you are 150 times more likely to die in a given day from gun violence in the US than you are anything that's happening here in terms of Iranian missiles or drones.
So you've got your experience, right, being in conflict zones and, doing this type of, risk assessments. I want to bring you in for a second, Ebrahim, and Allah barik to that, sorry. So you've also been in a couple of conflict zones, but you don't have this type of background. So I'm curious to know, what was your mindset? Like, did you not feel a sense of dread? There are missiles. Obviously, you were in Turkey and there were some issues there. You were in South Africa during the riots. So you also maintained quite a lot of calm.
So, alhamdulillah, I've been, so I think the difference would be Jules was more on the active side and being trained for this, and he was equipped for it, and he was given the skill and applied that theory into practice over his decades long of experience. Myself, I just happened to be, unfortunately, in the wrong place at the wrong time. Seems to be a recurring theme now, but alhamdulillah. The difference why I was so calm here initially, and even now, in South Africa, especially during the riots, we had to fend for ourselves.
Some real risks there, man. Really. Yeah. I was working with some colleagues during that. Like you had neighbors seeing how much ammo there was to share amongst each other. Yeah. They got serious. Wow. That is scary. Yeah. That is risk.
We stood at the bonfire and shared ammo, literally, 100%. So that was real risk. And we had to fend for ourselves. There was no government coming to protect us. So here, from day one, the government stepped in. They announced transparently. They took action. And alhamdulillah, we had this discussion on the podcast the other day. We all were shocked. We assumed Dubai was Burj Khalifa and the bling. And now when you look at the amount of preparation that they had, that went into defense, it honestly puts one at ease.
Yeah, Allah.
And that's it.
What was the joke you made? You're like, if your talabat order comes in 15 minutes, you're not in a conflict zone, buddy.
If you can order a pizza in 15 minutes, you're likely not in a war zone. That was
Sorry to interrupt, but just very quickly, if the kind of stuff that we discuss in this podcast, I'm talking about the tax strategies, the deal structures, the real conversations about building wealth the right way. If this is the kind of stuff that you want to be a part of, then this is nothing. We have an entire private network for high net worth and ultra high net worth Muslims. It's called The Cave. I'm talking about founders who've exited for 8 figures, 9 figures. I'm talking about fund managers with unicorns inside of their portfolio. Operators who've built billion-dollar companies without a single penny of riba. So what you hear on this podcast, that's just the surface. Inside The Cave, you get the conversations that don't get recorded, the introductions that don't happen anywhere else, a dedicated concierge who finds the exact advisor, tax advisor, lawyer, operator, or even Sheikh scholar who specializes in Islamic finance that you need within 24 hours, inshallah ta'ala. So if this is of interest to you, you can apply, inshallah ta'ala. You can only get in through application or invitation. And most of the applications, they are declined. And the reason for that is because we realize that an effective network is not built based on who's in it, but actually who's not in it. So we really try to protect the integrity and the quality and the standard of those that are inside. So if you feel like you belong, you're a high net worth, ultra high net worth Muslim operator, inshallah ta'ala, and you want to be a part of something like this, then you can apply now at the link below in the description, inshallah ta'ala. And hopefully we see you on the other side. With that said, let's get back into the podcast. Let's talk about this what he just mentioned, right? A lot of people had this very superficial image of the UAE in general, maybe Dubai specifically, right? Which is that this is just a safe haven for taxes, the bling bling, there's nice stuff here. And I feel like people kind of felt that it lacks substance in terms of, community, which...
The no soul argument.
Right? But I've seen so much community recently, and also with regards to like the military side of things, I cannot lie, I'm blown away. Like wow,
brother, billions of dollars spent. We didn't pay for that with our tax dollars. This country is looking after us more than our own home country would ever do.
I'd love to repeat that one more time. Just see that one more time.
So, we can look at billions of dollars spent by the UAE government to protect people who aren't citizens of the country.
And we didn't pay a penny.
We didn't pay any tax for that. When we look at the UK, where you guys are from, or Australia, where I'm from, the government is taking every cent that it can and not giving nearly as much back. If we look at the ratio of what they give and what they take, I actually think UAE will turn this crisis into opportunity, same as we saw in COVID.
Yeah.
Things were managed so well here that it made the city more popular, more busy. I will forecast, inshallah, by the end of the summer, traffic will be back to annoying level. And I think there's two things happening. One, those who live in the UAE feel more loyal, more grateful, and more aware of, hang on, this is my home now, I'm going to stick with it. And two, what's happening with Dubai globally? Everyone's talking about Dubai. That awareness is there. And within the field of public relations, that idea that any press is good press. Yes, a lot of the press that's being pushed out is negative, but there's a silver lining there. Everyone's saying, hang on, look at what the UAE is doing for people who live there. Look at the effort being put in. Look at how many people are standing up for and speaking for the UAE. I actually think net, this will be a positive in the end, inshallah. I really think so.
Sorry. So I 100% agree with you, and I've been saying something very similar. And the reason being, we've experienced this through COVID, right? The way they handled it just made people more loyal.
So much better than the West, really, let's be honest.
And presently, a lot of people in the West may have been considering Dubai or the UAE for some time. But hey, the region, it's a volatile region, maybe not yet. But now having seen how they've managed the crisis, I believe a lot of those on the fence would say, hey, you know what? It's not so bad after all.
There it is, brother. I'll be honest with you. Not only am I 0 out of 10 at concern the whole time, I feel more secure here because I've seen that the government spent billions protecting us as non-citizens and giving more care and more dollars spent than our own. I mean, can you imagine the UK or Australia spending billions for people who aren't even from the UK? I don't really, this is a very unusual situation in terms of the leaders showing they genuinely care. You think the leaders of this country don't want to get their military and swipe back at Iran? Do you think they don't want to? They've said clearly they'll never do that because they don't want to put any more risk on the people living here. Right. This incredible care and focus on us here as non-citizens, to me, I think is globally unique. Show me another country where the leaders care that much. Yeah, sure. I think more and more, and okay, you can say it's wishful thinking. Maybe it is. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. I think more and more after this, when things normalize, which I still think is a matter of weeks, not months, people are going to come back to Dubai en masse, and more people are going to come to Dubai because, hang on, that's a place where the system, the society actually cares about everybody. You don't get that globally anymore. Yeah.
I was going to ask something also, and this is a question to you, Jules, because you mentioned it before, and in every opportunity, in every crisis, there's an opportunity. And I feel like something good might come out of this in the sense of it's also clearing out all of the useless people that were here in this country and that were just
those who don't deserve the benefits of Dubai.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because for you, for example, you moved your family here, your business here, your capital here, everything's here. And there are all these people that were online and that they left and talking crap about Dubai, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, that were just here for the high times. And now, all of a sudden, they disappeared.
Do you think those guys will be back?
Yeah. I reckon everyone's going to come back because the fundamentals haven't changed. People are just aware of the fact that we're in the Middle East now. The fundamentals of this city, no street crime, amazing environment to raise families, people are positive. Everyone who's here is a bit of a risk taker because they've left their home country for the promise of a better life. Leadership that actually cares about you. Emirates to fly all around the world. This is a great base if you're, a global citizen. None of those fundamentals have changed. What we've seen is, hang on, we are actually in the Middle East. But the following realization is, we are in the Middle East and the risk is manageable. I think it's a maturity thing. I think everyone's just becoming a little more aware of the realities here. And I personally feel more comfortable here. Did you know the UAE would be able to respond like this? I didn't.
I had no clue.
Yeah. I knew we were in the Middle East. Yeah. That was not news to me. Yeah. I knew the risks were there. I didn't think there'd be this level of just absolute excellence in response.
I also think
that's sure.
another really important thing is to consider is that if you say that the UAE is now not safe, in comparison to what, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, in the UK, you are going to get there is a killing on the back of knife crime every single day, right? This is in America, 53 people get murdered every day on average. Well, that was last year.
Yeah.
40% of the spending within the UK is the British government. The economy is about to implode on itself, right? America's debt this morning just hit 39 trillion, right? 39 trillion, right? So my point is that the whole world is, I think, and you'll probably be able to relate to this better, but we've been living in this very idealistic image of what the world has been. Actually, there was conflicts all over the place, but there was a great branding play. The West is taking care of things. We're very civilized. What's happened now is that the wall's been removed from our eyes, and we can see actually things are not as pretty as they are. So when you look at all the conflicts and the economic situations that are taking place around the world, you have to compare the UAE to that.
Exactly. Well said, brother. Well said. And I think anyone who is, again, looking to do the right thing for their family has to consider that. Okay, the UAE is slightly less safe than it was, but still the risk of something impacting you is near zero, less than road traffic accident risk. The risks in the West are only increasing. Sorry, the trend lines are clear in Western Europe. the shooting thing, the school shooting thing is clear. It's a clear precedent. It's an ongoing issue in the US that doesn't look like it's going away. But again, humans aren't very good at perceiving risks accurately when there's emotions involved.
So how do you mitigate that then? Because I love you articulate it so beautifully, right? Like it seems like risks that are voluntary, even if they are more dangerous, like driving a car, but it's voluntary. It gives you that sense of control. I'm driving the car. I'm in charge. Yes, I understand statistically I'm more likely to die in this vehicle, but there's less dread because I'm holding the wheel. Whereas on the other side, I'm not in control of the interceptions. So how do you mitigate that sense of dread because you're not in control?
I think there's the logical and the emotional approach. The logical approach is the positive reframe. I'm more at risk jumping on an aircraft or jumping in an Uber than I am of anything happening in terms of missiles or drones in the UAE. I believe it's for Dubai itself, the Emirate of Dubai, I think it's one fatality, which of course, RIP. But all this fear, all this hype, examine the agendas of those who are pushing fear. Social media, fear goes viral. Mainstream media, they need clicks, they're losing relevance. Fear is the way they sell they get the attention of people. So I think focus on the credible, proven sources, like the official sources, which give good updates. Try not to spend too much time on social media with all this fear mongering. Try not to be around people who are freaking out. I've had to again and again been amazed at all these British people just freaking out. Maybe have less time around normie Brits who are just losing their mind for some reason. And just manage your emotional state and that of your family. Stay positive. Stay fit. If you talk about what stress is, it's cortisol. It's certain hormones released by strain on your cognitive system, right? Your central nervous system. Counter it with things like exercise, with salah. Prayer is an amazing way to reduce stress.
Sure.
Where each time we're in sujood, tell me, what stress? What fear? Lean into that which gives you positive emotional states and reduces stress, and it's all very manageable. Again, I don't want to sound too unempathetic, but I've remained at 0 out of 10 this whole time. It's not even 0.5 out of 10 concern. To me, it's that little a deal, because again, I know logically it's near zero chance of something going wrong.
So I'm going to ask this question, not because we're anticipating this, but just so people can see the contrast, right? Because I feel like helping people understand what a stressful situation could look like shows them how far we are from that. So what would a tripwire situation be that would make you think, hey, you know what? It's actually time to start taking this a bit seriously and taking precautions.
And that's a very important question to ask. And that's what analysts, both geopolitical and security risk, set. They set clear triggers and then clear responses within the framework of their contingency planning. For me, certain triggers, if America was to put troops on ground in a meaningful way, not just, an SF raid on an island or something like that, which we might see, but if they were to deploy troops in a meaningful way, that means prolonged conflict and that means prolonged issues with the region. So that'd be a definite trigger for me. I think there are other things we need to look out for in terms of very low likelihood, but still, outlying risks, such as a military miscalculation. If these Iranian theatrics pushing for headlines did result in a mass casualty impact within the Gulf states, that could then lead to an escalation, retaliation perhaps. Perhaps the Gulf states wouldn't be so restrained, so that would be a trigger. A false flag in the region. It's a difficult thing to talk about on the internet, but that is something that happens within the modern era. Again, very low likelihood, but that would, to me, constitute a potential escalation. But again, either of these things happening, I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. I still think in terms of the risks, I don't see a credible scenario where living here and having my family here means on a day-to-day basis they're more at risk than street crime in Western Europe or gun crime in the USA. Or, astaghfirullah, exposure to all the LGBT nonsense in the schools. That's a real risk. There are mental health risks of having your kids in schools in the West. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Like it's this is a clean place to raise young minds. That is something I value, regardless of whether there's some noises in the sky.
You did mention in your video today that one of the most important things actually people should be focusing on right now is their mental health more
100%.
Than anything.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, but what was your reasoning behind that?
Because again, the likelihood of security risk of something happening to you physically is so close to zero, it's less than road traffic accident. Right. However, many families and many people are feeling that emotional strain. So that's a real impact. Yeah. And that's something you need to manage as a parent, as a father, as a business leader. One of the things I ask my team every day, I say, how is everybody? How are your families? They're fine, but their families back home are worried. So keep talking to your families. Show them videos to show everything's safe. Because again, that's strain on your family unit. That's strain on your central nervous system if the people you love are worried about you. These are the impacts that people need to put more focus in rather than mitigating security risks out there.
Right.
So I want to comment on the family side of things, but one thing I just want to mention, and I almost feel like weird saying it because I understand people who are not here, what their perception of their reality is and why it seems so far-fetched to say what I'm going to say. But hopefully you guys can see I'm being genuine and everyone here. I'm by my nature a very paranoid person, extremely paranoid. Paranoia just runs through my blood. Yeah.
Paranoia as a lifestyle choice. All about it.
So, like in the UK, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. There's what we call crackheads. We call them nitties all around. You'll see crack needles on the floor. And by the way,
extreme feminists.
Extreme.
Maybe more scary.
You're right. Potentially, yeah. So, I'm honestly, I feel very worried whenever my wife is getting out the car with my daughter and coming into the house. And I've got reason to be. We have one of those cameras on the house. So there was a time when I was actually over here when I used to live over there. My wife, she came out of the car. Her sister dropped her off, and some strange individual just decided to stand at the edge of the entrance of the house, right on the road. She started looking at them, and then just walked away. So ever since that happened, I was like, wait, what was that? And that made me just always feel paranoid. Whenever she's coming out of the car, just quickly get in. Here, with missiles around, I have no problem my wife going outside to the park, taking my daughter around. No problem.
And that is statistically grounded. That is mathematically correct. So that is the correct read.
Yeah.
And I give you props for having situational awareness such that you're aware of these potential genuine threats when they come close to your family. We need to be like that as men. I cannot take a man seriously who isn't constantly walking down the street thinking, okay, let's watch his hands, let's watch his intent, let's watch, because that's where things go wrong. I, with respect to people who have a different view on it, you will never catch me sitting with my back to the room ever. In fact, when I go out to dinner with security professional mates, we'll both sit next to each other with our backs to the wall, facing outwards, as if we're on a date holding hands or something. We laugh about it. We don't sit across from each other because no one wants that back to the room. I don't think it's paranoia. I think it's the way men, animals, should be. How do you know today's not the day? Especially for those who are public brands or, someone has some jealousy or, how do you know today's not the day where someone might try and in some way harm your children? Yeah. Okay, let's say throughout your entire life, there's only one day where that's going to happen. If you're not ready on that day, so you need to be ready on every day.
You
to me, that's it's just basics.
I want to talk about the family side of things, right? Because I feel like a lot of men have made a huge mistake in the way that they panicked inside of their households. And this might be a touchy subject for some, but I think it's important to address it, right? A man is the anchor inside of his house. Now, generally speaking, I know within my household, my wife, I'm actually very proud of her and how she has been able to respond to this, because she was wrapped around cotton wool when she was raised, alarm Vedic, and she's not used to these type of things. So I'm very proud of how she handled it, but I realized that Allah Azza wa Jalla made myself a means to anchor her, because I didn't have this sense of dread. And that really kind of just trickled down. And then I started to think, subhanAllah, how essential is it for a man to just be composed? Because if not, he's going to make his family panic. And then what happens is that when things blow over, they're going to see people like Jules on Instagram telling you, hey, be calm. And then the women are going to start following him.
Astaghfirullah, bro. I mean,
No, but if the position as a man, I don't mind me saying that.
no. I think a lot of men will be deleting social media posts when things settle down. That's the way I'll put it. But and also I think, and I joke about this, but to your point, is this not the time to show your leadership as a man?
Exactly.
Is this not the time to show, okay, I'm comfortable with a bit of uncertainty. I'm comfortable with a bit of fear. I'm still going to be here and show up for my family in terms of protect, provide, but also emotional support, even if things are a bit concerning. This is the time where the world respects, because it remembers it needs traditional values from the man. And I think any man who's not putting emphasis on, I'm calming my family down, I'm talking to other brothers who are calm, I'm staying risk informed, I'm not spending hours doom scrolling, but I'm staying aware of what's happening. Now's the time to be that man. And to your point, I think a lot of men are missing that opportunity. And I think it speaks to the fact that masculinity has been demonized, especially in the West. And a lot of men have become more and more feminized over time, which means, alhamdulillah, women are more emotional than men. Nowadays, as men get more feminized, they're getting more emotional. And we're seeing that now with some of this panicking and fleeing and British crypto guys freaking out on social media. A few times I called them out and said, yeah, you're going to delete this. A week later, they deleted it. So it's overall, it's a commentary on the state of masculinity such that a lot of men nowadays have lost those important values. Stoicism, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ability to lead family through uncertainty. Is this not an opportunity for all of us to be better as men? And does being comfortable with fear and comfortable with uncertainty and staying calm under pressure, does that not translate to every area of life anyway? Business, family, leadership, everything. So.
And I love something you said in one of your initial videos when this whole situation started. You said this is going to be the new norm, right, for a while. And I know you meant that specifically about the region, but again, I'm not a political pundit. I'm not an analyst when it comes to geopolitics. But I've got a head on my shoulders, and over the last couple of years, you can see globally there just seems to be a lot more conflicts in the world, and it doesn't seem like those things are slowing down. So, alhamdulillah, as you mentioned, very confident things are going to completely calm down in the region. But globally, I feel like the new world is going to have a lot more conflict. So if you can't handle a few, firework type of sounds in the sky, then wherever you are in the world, like you're a lot more exposed to these type of conflicts than you were pre-COVID. So what are you going to do if you can't handle some sounds in the sky?
There it is. And I think at the end of the day, your approach of being that guy who's a bit paranoid, who's always thinking, what's the worst potential scenario when it comes to street crime? How do I look after my family in areas where I know there is street crime? That level of professional paranoia also brings a level of calm when you can assess risk properly.
Right.
I'm ultra paranoid walking down the street in London. I'm ultra switched on when I'm walking even in my home city of Adelaide. I'm taking in everything much more than Dubai because I know that the policing and the law and order isn't as effective as it is here. I understand that the UAE is essentially an access-controlled space. Not anyone can come and go, whereas other countries don't have that sort of blessing to be run that way. Again, I think professional paranoia as a man is vital in today's day and age where all societies, you could argue, there are more risks, especially with the online risks and privacy pretty much going out the window. We see a lot of conflicts. We see a lot of crime all around the world. So you need to be that professional paranoia guy. But as you get better at properly assessing and accurately perceiving risk, you also know when you can be calm, when you can relax. When I'm in the UAE, I'm not worried about, my family members walking around at night. That professional paranoia is essentially an awareness of risk in an accurate sense. And when you're in somewhere like the UAE, it actually means you can relax. So I think to your point, the way the world's going, more and more people will value the model that is the UAE, because mathematically, if we're perceiving risk accurately, you and your family are still safer here than pretty much any major Western city.
If you're like any decent Muslim out there, I know you wish you understood the Arabic language so that you could connect with the Quran. Do you know how long it took me to learn the Arabic language? It took me like 7-8 years. And you know why I'm kind of upset about that? It's because I've recently come across Ijada Institute, which has students speaking Arabic in 6 months. In 6 months. So I was mind blown. So I decided to connect with the founder and the teacher, Sheikh Abdurrahman, and I asked him, how did you do it? And he built a system, Allahumma barik, that focuses specifically on teaching those that are non-Arab speakers living in the 21st century, i.e. our context, how to study Arabic. Most of the programs that you're going to see out there in the books were not even designed for Westerners or non-Arab speakers. And if they were designed back in the 90s and the early 2000s. This is a program that's mind-blowing. I actually listened into one of the calls that they have with the students. They log on and they talk to each other and they talk about their day. And I was like, wow, these brothers and sisters, of course, there's no free mixing. They are talking in fluent Arabic in 6 months. Now, of course, you have to put the hard work and you have to do the work, but you can just focus, just doing a small amount every single week. And within 6 to 12 months, inshallah ta'ala, you're going to be proficient. And then there's going to be that moment where you're going to be in salah, you're going to be reciting Quran, and it's going to come and you're not expecting, I promise, where you're going to relate to an ayah and it's going to touch your heart in a way, it's going to bring tears to your eyes. And that's going to be the beginning of your relationship with the speech of Allah. So if you want an Arabic Studies Institute that, inshallah ta'ala, works as far as I'm concerned, and within 6 to 12 months you want to be speaking Arabic and then, inshallah, understanding the speech of Allah, then apply to join Ijada Institute at the link below, inshallah ta'ala. So I have a prediction. I feel that when the conferences are over, definitely, I think we're in agreement that the UAE's PR is just going to go through the roof. But I feel like it's going to now attract more of, it's going to attract more of the right type of man. So, you know, like these crypto boys and these, you know, beauty influencers that have temporarily gone. Whether they come back or not, I'm not sure. But I feel like a lot of real men are going to be like, this is the place I want to be in. And the reason I kind of feel like it's the way, I'm speaking to a lot of people, right? Through our network, alhamdulillah, we speak to a lot of guys who've got global members. And even though the conflict is still, you know, taking place right now, they're already making plans to move over here. So one guy spoke.
See, we're still getting, because I have a visa company, right? Yeah. I mean, it's more, I set it up just with so many people asking how to set up and I didn't want them to get overcharged. We're still getting requests regularly. People still want to move here because the fundamentals haven't changed. Can I speak on what you've just said? If we look at something like Bitcoin and that idea of the hodlers versus the weak hands, yes. As the price goes up, everyone's like, oh, Bitcoin's great. Then the fear, uncertainty, doubt comes in, the price goes down. The guys who are staying in Bitcoin still stay. Same in Dubai. The people who are staying, I don't know anyone in my circles. Wallahi azim, I don't know anyone who's been here for more than 5 years who's now saying I'm going. Not a single person. Because they are the hodlers. Those are the ignoring the FUD and staying here in the UAE. And over time, if the fundamentals are there, like we see with Bitcoin, it's going to keep going up. The UAE has the fundamentals.
So I actually know a guy. He works as a very senior executive in Apple, but outside of the US. And he surrendered his American passport and he's purchased another one. And he's done this so he can move to the UAE. And he's made full plans to move here in the next few months.
Regardless of what's happening.
Regardless. As in, he didn't even mention the point. I'm coming.
It's not even on his radar.
It's not even on his radar. Another one of our members, alhamdulillah, he's a graduate from the Islamic University of Medina. He's has a cybersecurity consultancy. Big family man, 3 daughters, moving here in April. Right. So my point is that there's no sense of dread amongst, you know, I guess,
the hodlers.
The hodlers.
Yeah, really, those who believe in the fundamentals.
But that being said, what do you, if you had to give genuine advice, at least for the time being, as a business owner from interacting with all the people here, what would you advise business owners specifically?
See, that's an impact, yeah, definitely.
On how to navigate this uncertainty until the dust settles.
I think we're in for a few months of economic impact as a minimum, definitely. And as we know, there are certain industries that are more hard hit, such as hospitality, such as, you know, these sorts of things. Ideally, go cash heavy. Ideally, you're not too leveraged and try and minimize costs. That's the unfortunate reality. Now, we've been through worse. COVID was a bigger hit.
Yeah.
And it was legitimately everyone stuck in their house. Much worse for hospitality than this. You know, there are still people going to hotels and restaurants. I was in Mall of the Emirates yesterday. Still a good, you know, amount of people there. So I'd say we've gotten through worse. But the real impacts that are real and present is not things reaching you from the sky. It is the emotional impact on your families and loved ones we all need to manage. And it is the economic impact, especially for small businesses and those in hospitality or, affected areas. So I think, try and minimize being over leveraged and go cash heavy if you can, and just watch expenses.
Sheikh, you mentioned that the expectation is that by the summer, traffic will be back.
By end of summer.
By end of summer.
Because it's always a bit more quiet over summer.
So where is could you talk us through that analysis and how you come to that conclusion, or the people that you're speaking to come to that conclusion?
I still believe we're looking at weeks, not months, for this conflict. If you look at, how to assess geopolitical and security risk, many different factors go into it. One of the reasons why this conflict was started was Israel was pushing America for it, we know, so they have their intent. We know that America has a voting cycle and, has some economic and domestic scandals and issues, a certain list getting talked about. So they need distraction for their domestic populace. We look on the Iranian side. They need to show, the regime is strong. It's standing up to Shaitan Abazorg, the great evil, as they call America. Everyone has their own narratives they're trying to push. Economically, everyone has their own, gains or losses throughout this process. The further this goes on, the worse it is for all three of those major entities. Mm-hmm. And what leaders are, essentially self-serving. So if we're looking at the most logical move on the chessboard, is that they're going to try and do the right thing by their own, which is to maintain the narratives they need domestically and to play the power plays that they want, whether it's oil and, America bringing freedom to countries that have oil as it loves to, or whether it's different power plays and different moves that it's trying to make for that negotiated outcome to then happen. But at the end of the day, it's very unlikely that there'll be an irrational, illogical move by any of these parties, because they're all just trying to survive. They're all just trying to self-benefit. And so the idea of some massive escalation just doesn't logically play out if you understand the intent and the precedent and the goals of the different three major entities involved in this. So it's highly, highly likely there'll be a negotiated settlement to this war. And the sooner that happens, the better each of these parties are in terms of the economic impacts that's affecting everybody. So I still believe it's weeks, not months. I still believe the negotiated outcome to the war is the most credible. Yes, there are underlying risks, such as false flag or military miscalculation, or one of these players making a very irrational move. But again, that doesn't serve their overall best interests. So I think after weeks, not months, let's say the total conflict lasts for, initially my call was we're looking about 6 weeks. Let's say it goes 6 weeks plus or minus a couple of weeks. After that, I think we'll be sort of in summer. So there'll be a bit of a bump up afterwards, but then there'll be the quiet summer months. And then I think October, end of summer, we're going to be back to complaining about how busy the traffic is, inshallah. That would be my credible, most likely case. And when you're doing forecasting, you have, credible worst case and most likely. That would be my most likely, very much highly likely compared to other scenarios.
What needs to happen in order for this negotiation to take place? And I'll give you some context behind this question, right? So it seems like a big thing here is the Strait of Hormuz and who controls it. So interestingly, Ray Dalio put out an article yesterday. The reason I quite like his analysis is because...
He's an amazing man, by the way. Very respectful.
Yeah, no, very nice guy. He's one of those guys I'm really hopeful that he sees the beauty of Islam. Because, he's got those...
He's smart enough for it.
Yeah. But, obviously he made a fortune out of doing this type of analysis and whatnot, being, this with his hedge fund and everything and so on and so forth. So he took 17 days before he's actually commented on this conflict. So a man like that, when he takes out 70 days to really think, process, study, to me, it kind of, it seems like it's got some impact there. So he mentioned this whole thing is around who controls the Strait of Hormuz. So the conflict will carry on up until that can be resolved. And the thing here is that America can't afford to basically lose that control, because that would be catastrophic for them on a global stage, because now Iran is directly negotiating with India, Japan, China, because they get most of their oil from...
And the longer it drags out, the less likely the US is to have what it wants in terms of its interests around that strategic bit of water play out. This is why I still think we're looking at weeks, not months. Did Ray Dalio agree with that? Because he's a greater geopolitical analyst than I could ever be.
Yeah, no, I don't think he came to the conclusions. His point was just highlighting the scenarios.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I think that's a huge factor, especially the economic leverage that's being pushed against the USA and co in terms of the economic impact there, and all the other countries complaining. Even Australia's maybe running out of petrol. It's become a global issue, global headache. So that's Iran putting leverage on the table for the negotiated settlement. I think the Iranian narrative needs to be broken into different elements. A lot of people don't realize that there's the leader of the country who's I believe is president, not PM. It's been a long time since I lived there. I should know that. And he was saying, we're not going to attack the Gulf states anymore. Remember that? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 2.5 years, bro. Speak the language. So long time ago. Yeah, I do. A long time ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, indeed. There's a lot. There's history there. President Iran said we're not going to attack the Gulf states anymore. A few hours later, they were attacked again. The president of Iran doesn't control the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or Sepah as it's known. They're the ones who fire the missiles. Now, so you need to examine the intents of those different sort of entities in terms of leadership. One is a lot more practical, one is more ideological, but a lot of people don't realize Sepah, or the IRCG, they're like a military, but they're also an economic entity. They're huge economic interests. So they also want to make money and self-enrich.
And they had a lot of their money.
Oh, huge. The UAE was a channel for money for years for Iran. So that's why I know I got to be careful what I say here. As someone who's explosives qualified from army days, these drones aren't doing much, are they?
Yeah.
So one could therefore deduce that they're not fully packed with potential go bang bang. Loads. Yeah, really. They want headlines.
So I was actually going to ask you that. Sorry, I didn't.
Just to finish off, I can, brother. So I hear everyone saying, yes, Strait of Hormuz, economy. I still think the Iranian powers that be are primarily driven by narrative control and theater and wanting to keep their people happy that, yes, they are strong and yes, they are representing and fighting for their nation. I think economically, they also want to survive and self-sustain and self-enrich, as all humans do. Even leaders are still humans. But I think the push from Iran, more than anything, is that narrative control, that agenda control, those propaganda wins. That's a huge factor. And that's why the attacks on the Gulf states are predominantly theater. Why would you attack in ways that don't actually hurt people consistently? Oil storage bins and the airport. Because you get the big fire with the oil, and then you get the headlines with the airport. But they're not actually killing anybody. Yeah. They want, and we have clear target patterns for 19 days day. Now, they want headlines. It's clear. They want as much propaganda wins as possible. They want headlines globally. That's why they're attacking UAE. Yeah. Why are they attacking UAE 4 times more projectiles sent here than to Israel? Exactly. Because they want the headlines. They want that narrative control. I think that's a huge piece that a lot of analysts aren't giving as much weight in this.
It's a very powerful point because the issue that we had at the airport, where they hit the oil tanker, it seemed like, wow, this big blast. I
don't think there was even an injury from that.
There was no injury.
Yeah, so isn't that perfect then? It's headlines, but then afterwards, and with this negotiated settlement, there's still room to maintain some sort of relationship between Iran and the Gulf states, in theory.
What would the strategy from Iran's perspective be then for like these incidents that we've had, for example, like in Creek Harbor, Marina,
Again, how many people died?
No.
Okay. But what happened globally in terms of headlines?
All over.
Massive. Is that not pushing for headlines? Is that not pushing for propaganda wins? Is that not theater? To me, that's the case in point right there.
But I have a question for you here, Jules. Why do you feel specifically now that there is so much hatred and so much bad publicity, specifically from the West, and they've taken advantage of this situation to really, really, really take a stab at Dubai?
I think it's super simple.
Did you have a question that was connected, or
it's very similar to Sheikh? So maybe you can answer both one time. So my perspective was, you have knowledge being based in different countries throughout your career. So you have some additional insight than most of us. You understand war as theater. And what I see is a lot of people trying to find black and white, whereas there's a lot of gray.
War is a mess.
So, because enemy of my enemy automatically becomes my friend. But hey, dude, it doesn't necessarily work like that.
Because within Iran, there are competing entities who have different agendas. And there's a lot of back-channel dialogue going on at the moment.
So UAE is getting, to your point, UAE is getting a lot of hate because, so to say, we're supposed to be siding with someone else. But through your years of experience, how much of damage those individuals have actually caused in the region? and the bases which you're unhappy about are here because of that perceived threat?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think most of the hate being pushed at Dubai is a lot of it just because that's a bit of a trend now. A lot of people on social media just jump on a trend. You can get some clicks if you post against the UAE. A lot of that's jealousy driven as well. UAE is thriving and other cities often aren't. So people living in those other cities and with those other societal models perhaps motivated by jealousy. But a lot of it's engineered. If you look at someone like the BBC, they are the state-paid propaganda wing of the British government. How much money was leaving the UK?
Yeah.
Millionaires, ultra-high net worth, anyone who could, and coming to Dubai.
Every 40 minutes, one millionaire.
There it is. Yep.
Okay, for 2 years.
I view it as an impossibility that there wasn't a political advisor who got a direct talking point from the leaders of the UK and went to BBC and said, you will now say this. You will speak against Dubai's reputation because now's our chance to paint it as unsafe so all of the money of our country stops leaving, because it was a real problem for them. So I think that drives it. In terms of the geopolitical sort of, I'd say, issues people have with the UAE, this is a very volatile region. And to think that you as some stranger, random anon behind a keyboard has the understanding or the qualifications to tell certain leaders or certain government entities as to how they should conduct statecraft in such a volatile region. I mean, you go run a country then, friend. Show me a government that has managed to navigate such geopolitical risk and difficulties without stepping on some toes or without some concessions.
And still thrive.
To simplify it such that they're bad, you shouldn't talk to them. They're good, you should do this. Yeah. That's not how governments and how statecraft and how diplomacy works. It's naive to think that there's any government in the world who hasn't done something that someone's going to have issues with. And I'm
saying this can't run his own household, right?
Oh, this is it. And also to the point, I see a lot of people in the West saying, oh, UAE is bad for this reason, UAE is bad for that reason. As someone been based here for financial purposes for a decade and a half, I haven't paid a single cent in terms of income tax to a military that's invaded a Muslim country. I haven't paid income tax that's gone towards a bomb that's dropped on a Muslim family. I'm sorry to my brothers and sisters in the Ummah. If you are paying tax in the West, your money has gone directly towards the bombs that have landed on Middle Eastern countries.
So we did analysis on this on the Cape podcast a couple of days ago. Generally, what is 0.5% of Muslim taxes directly funds the
Wars in Muslim countries.
No.
Israel. It goes to Israel.
Israel.
Wow.
So 0.5% of your tax goes directly to Israel.
And they want to beef me for living in the UAE? How about you look where your own money is going? It just doesn't add up. And I think you get a lot of ignorance when it comes to geopolitics and macroeconomics, but there's also a lot of experts, self-appointed experts at the same time, right?
There's never black and white.
No, bro.
There's always
the world's a mess, man. War is a mess. Economics is a mess. To think that any government exists without having to occasionally do things which are a little bit, show me one government ever. Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
At least the government that I'm living with, that I'm not paying tax to, hasn't gone and invaded en masse for decades with my tax-paying money, desperately poor Muslim countries. Again, everyone in the West who's paying tax there, you need to just have some perspective when you want to criticize those living in the UAE. I'm not fueling the military-industrial complex. If you're living in the West and you're paying tax, your own money is doing so. I get a bit annoyed about that.
Look, we all do. Trust me.
100%.
You're being very restrained, mashallah. Allah barik. It's not just the military-industrial complex. It's all of the think tanks that are funded by the government that push anti-Islamic agendas, and all of the LGBT. Wallahi, if it was to compound, we'd be here for days. If we talked about everything, subhanallah. A question I have: what is there any risk of the regional militaries getting involved in this conflict?
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. The risk exists. Is it credible or likely? I think it's very low. I think the Gulf states have shown incredible restraint, and they've actually spoken out loud about their policy of not engaging. Yeah. Again, to prioritizing the safety of everyone living here. I don't see other countries getting involved in a meaningful way, because in an air and naval battle, the US kind of has supremacy in these things. There aren't any regional militaries that can add that much. Boots on ground won't happen in a meaningful way, because that'll be 10 to 20 times more catastrophic and challenging than, with respect to Iraq. There was Sunni Shia split down the middle, suffering from sanctions for years. A lot of the Iraqi soldiers took off their uniforms and ran away so as not to be identified. It ain't the case in Iran. I've seen the besieged, and I've seen the way they do riot control with my own eyes. These are fighting age male men who are like about it. They're serious guys. 1 million full-time up to 3 million part-time. Who are training for and dreaming about the day they get to die for their country. Bro, I'm sorry. Yes, if you couldn't even resolve Afghanistan, which is a bunch of tribal guys off in the mountains in two decades and trillions of dollars, Iran's ability to repel a domestic assault is infinitely more of a military disaster waiting to happen. So I don't think we'll see boots on ground. Second?
For the US.
For the US, for anybody, really. And if you understand the terrain as well, from a military perspective, it's a bit like a fortress, really. And if you look at the different ways too, because as a former intelligence guy, you understand how to motivate people, how to get people to do things. There are many different ways to motivate someone. For example, financially, but the issue with that is someone could pay them more. You could use, for example, compromat or blackmail, as we see with certain entities around the world. The issue is, that can it's a negative way to do it. You're not really building loyalty. The number one way to recruit someone and get them to do something for you is that of ideology. That's why you see in American boot camps, they're singing, they're proud, they're rewriting their identity. Hollywood pushing, yay, save America, America's under attack. And so pushing that ideology. The Iranians have millions of fighting age males who are motivated by passionate, strong ideology for the regime. The idea that it's just going to fall over because some liberals living in Tehran or university students don't like it. There is a massive, loyal fighting age male base there that is armed and trained and has been preparing for a ground invasion for decades. So I don't think it's credible to see any meaningful deployment of troops on ground and other militaries getting involved in that sense.
It would also be the death warrant of those militaries that go in.
Oh, they're a mess. No one wants that, bro. And the American
Western society is all there. US hegemony is all there.
American voting population doesn't have the appetite for that. Because look, it's too fresh. The endless wars that didn't lead to anything, they're too recent in history.
Yeah.
So, I know you're in a lot of circles, mashallah, tabarakallah, where you have access to a lot of insights, Allahum barik, and not just economically, commercially speaking, but also intelligence, security-wise. So, without, of course, going into anything that you can't say, is there anything that you can share with us in terms of what's maybe happening that could give us a bit more context in terms of what the future looks like?
The headlines are making it look like this is all out, World War III style levels of tension and conflict. That's not the case. The amount of back-channeling in terms of diplomatic talks is huge at the moment. Yeah. And as we often see in the region, we see Oman playing a part, we see Qatar playing a part. Like right now, the amount of talks between the powers that be is in overdrive, working towards a negotiated settlement of this war. BBC won't tell you that because it wants to keep you scared.
Drinking tea with each other, laughing, negotiating.
I mean, there's a lot of calls, there's a lot of back and forth, and everyone knows it's in everyone's best interest for this to wrap up. And that's the Iranian side, that's the Gulf side, that's the US side. Now America's owner, of course, you can argue wants to push for Armageddon, but it is also constrained by various practicalities. But overall, again, I think it's highly likely that this wraps up in an overall matter of weeks, not sustained months.
See, the reason I asked that is because you mentioned something interesting. The individual that was just killed yesterday. What was his name again? Sorry, in Iran?
Larijani.
So his daughter has a corporate job in America. But and like the new leader, the new supreme leader, has got property in London. Like, and here's
I'd assume just
so my thing is, how is that the case if you're all enemies? How is your daughter working in a corporate position?
So it's all theatre, mate. It's all theatre. At the end of the day, the vast majority of leaders on this planet just want to self-enrich, look after themselves, survival, make more power, more money, more resources. Even the people at the top are still driven by human nature and ego and scarcity and these sorts of things.
Why does it have to get to conflict then? Why can't we, if ultimately every military encounter seems to be, settled at the negotiating table, why do this in the first place?
Because that's where you get your leverage to negotiate. It's just setting the grounds for that negotiation. War is a tool of statecraft. So is diplomacy. When diplomacy doesn't work, all right, we throw some war in there. Or usually there's covert ops first, and then there's war in its different phases. I genuinely am not concerned at all for the region overall, having been here for 20 years. And again, if you talk to brothers who Iraqis or Yemenis, people have been in the Lebanese, the volatility of the Middle East does this sometimes. And a little bit of that volatility has temporarily reached out and touched the UAE in a way that doesn't bring significant security risk. Alhamdulillah. So really, less people have died since this started from Iranian missiles and drones and the fallout of that than they have from road traffic accidents, per official statistics.
Does America come out of this conflict stronger?
I don't think so.
Does Iran come out stronger?
I think domestically, it comes out with a stronger narrative that it stood up to the West, and it'll play this like, oh, we managed to make the West back down. I think any system like Iran, where there is, resistance to the leadership, now has the ability to say, hey, we have a real enemy out there who tried to attack us. You're either with us, the government, or you're with the enemy, so we need to put you in prison. So they can be more totalitarian as a result. But from the start, anyone who knows Iran knows there wasn't going to be a regime change from missiles or naval attacks. You need boots on ground for that, and that will be an absolute mess that no one wants to do. So this is not going to result in any, okay, you might knock out a few key players, which happened, but you're not going to change the apparatus in Iran.
Does America's owner come out stronger? Because they've taken some hits as well.
It's hard for me to answer that because I'm quite emotional on that topic, to be honest, brother. I think overall, they'll push for a propaganda win, but I think most people, both their nationals and the international community, will be asking, well, what was the point of that? So I don't see them coming out stronger. But again, I'm anti the killing en masse of women and children, so I have a lot of emotions there. So perhaps I can't give an objective view on that particular question.
Does the region come out stronger?
I think in a couple of years, there'll be clear winners in the region, such as the UAE. Again, far from objective. This is my home. I feel real loyalty here. But I think the loyalty we're seeing from the citizens here, the fact that the leaders care about us so much here, I think one of the strongest winners here, and I'm happy to say this on record, in a couple of years will be the UAE. Because again, what other societal model puts in so much work to protect the people who live there, citizens and non-citizens? So I think overall, inshallah, the UAE will come out more mature in terms of the people who live here. Perhaps we'll shake out the weak hands. But those who will be here will be more passionate, more committed to stay here for the long term. And more comfortable with, yes, in the Middle East sometimes there might be a few loud noises in the sky. That doesn't mean I have to panic.
Just like we're comfortable with stabbings in London, as unfortunate as it might be.
I'd much rather be here, bro.
Sheikh, last question. The question I'm going to ask, we can cut it out if not. Yeah. So what does the region, specifically the UAE's relationship now look like with the other players now, Iran, the owners of the America after this?
I think it's a bit too hard to tell. I think the damage between Iran and the UAE, their relationship, which is a long-standing one, is going to hurt Iran. I think Iran's gone too far on this and has been too ungrateful. So I think that's one damage we're going to see. I don't know how things will fall in terms of relationships with America's owner. Because again, agreements that were made in terms of regional peace and stability have not been kept to, as I understand it.
From their side? From
their side, I think too soon to tell, brother. And that's the sort of chat that I think is best had off camera, to be honest. But I would like to think that overall public sentiment globally is that those who en masse kill women and children systematically and who create wars that are fundamentally unjustified. I'm sorry, I've got no love for the Iranian regime. I would love to see a positive change over there. But they didn't pose a threat to America. Let's be real. This is America's owner's agenda. So I'd like to believe more people are going to realize that than before.
Jules, may Allah bless you. Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm truly grateful to you. You have honestly done a great service for us. Honestly, you I'm sure you have some concept of how much, but you really have, man. Honestly,
I appreciate that.
You've been an anchor for us all. Yeah, appreciate it, bro. Thank you so much. Barakallah feek. Guys, make sure, man, you haven't had a chance to see the place that we're in. But Allah barik, if you want one of these fine suits, I've been telling these guys I need to come here and get myself a suit.
Bro, always welcome. Always welcome. I really believe the ROI on fine clothing, the power of the suit is very real for today's day and age. Everyone's dressing in t-shirts. I mean, just like my values, which are old school, my dress standards are old school. I want to make it, make men's style great again. Thank you, brother.
A photo.
Always welcome, bro. Always welcome.
Hopefully, our audience as well.
We're always welcome. I'm here every afternoon, so I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you, brother.
Well, no, we'll just take a photo.
I've actually cancelled all my travel plans just to be here over the next few months. Really, because now's the time to speak up for this part of the world. Really, it's.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. And also, I like doing it. I mean, we can still capture this if it's still filming.
Yeah.
It's still filming.
I enjoy triggering haters
You
who
can
think they're experts
tape as we
by bringing in reality. It gives me joy, bro. Really, like when I have all these people saying, "Oh, you got to run, you got to flee," it's like, all right, I'm going to cancel my flights and be here more on purpose because you're telling me I should flee. You know, I enjoy that back and forth.
No, Sheikh, well, it's good. It's good. Honestly, it's no, thank you. Honestly, I mean it when I say that.
No, very level-headed approach, and
I've just been doing it for a long time, man. Like I think it's very unusual for
some
someone with my
videos.
background, especially with the intelligence piece and, you know, the more sensitive security work that I did, to then be on social media.
So that's the thing, because a lot of people from your background, then even after they leave that work, they still choose to not come out.
And I've been given a bit of pushback by a lot of my security mates, like, bro, you're an influencer now? Like, they laugh a bit. I'm like, I laugh too. I still laugh at influencers. However, I have a platform and I have a few decades of relevant experience and alhamdulillah, a master's degree, and, you know, I tick all the boxes, and there happens to be a social media platform, then it's my duty to speak. It's my duty to use that. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing to watch. I didn't plan for this. I thought I was just a tailor. I thought I was chilling. You know, but apparently it's useful for people. So I'll keep putting it out there, man.
you're doing a good job, and
Thank you, man.
very inspiring.
Thank you.
especially to you.
Well, it's super interesting. I can't be in public at all now. Really. I mean, alhamdulillah, every minute someone's coming up saying thank you for your videos.